welcome to Haunted Hospitality, Southern Stories told by Spooky Gingers. I'm Robin.
And I'm Zoe, and I have a story for you guys today. But first, Robin, how's life?
I'm doing good, thank you. I am drinking this lovely ginger beer that Kari kindly donated to me. And the reason I think it's more spicy, gingery, is because it says at the bottom, 200% more ginger than original, which explains some things.
Yep.
Very good stuff. Thank you. I have no other thing to say.
Wouldn't you consider that a little bit of cannibalism?
Oh, because I'm a ginger.
Yes.
Good point. No.
All right.
Thank you for asking. How are you? How's your life?
I'm good.
Okay.
I think we need to address the elephant in the room, something we have not discussed yet on this show. And honestly, as two English majors, we really should have discussed before.
Do we have a typo?
No. Robin, we need to talk about Wordle.
Oh my god, listen, Zoe. I'm so far past you don't even understand.
What do you mean past?
I do Quirtle now.
Oh my god, is that the 4 one?
Yep.
No, thank you. Oh wait, didn't you show that to me?
I don't know, did
Okay, I don't know.
You get 9 tries total to get 4 words right.
And you have to fill in the same word for all.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
No.
It is intense. Now Wordle seems like old hat to me. I say that. I still got one wrong recently because I was like, spake, something like that. It was like one of the ones that like has a million different letter things and you find it a little bit too early, and I got cocky and I was like, no, it'll always be the next one. And then I was out of tries. How are you doing at Wordle?
I'm doing good. I broke my streak, so I had 19 days and I broke my streak, and then it was a really frustrating one too because it was like I got so close to the actual word. It was, I think I put like shout or something like that as my last guess, and it was snout.
Oh, yeah. I did get that one right.
I think I was just not feeling it, I was just not feeling it.
You have to be feeling Wordle in order to do Wordle.
Yeah. And today I got it in 6.
Don't tell me what it was.
Oh, okay.
I haven't done it yet.
But I do want to go over my stats. I just want to like brag a little bit because I'm not very good. But I have gotten 15 Wordles in 6 tries. I've gotten 24 in 5 tries. I've gotten 18 in 4 tries. I've gotten 8 in 3 tries.
Okay.
I've gotten 1 in 2 tries.
Okay.
And I've gotten 1 in 1 try.
You got a first time?
I got a first time one.
What was that one?
It was depot.
Oh, was it like your first word that you go with?
That's not my general first word, but I listened to internet trolls, so it's a little bit of a cheating, but like day before I listened to internet trolls who were talking about things, and they're like, no, you should try depot tomorrow.
Zoe, that doesn't count.
I count it.
That does not count. Okay, well, since you did your Wordle stats, I have to do mine. One, clearly I've been playing like a tiny bit less than you have, because I got distracted with Quirtle.
Yeah.
But, so I've played 52 times total. I've gotten it in 6 twice. At least this is according to my computer. So, like, okay. Gotten it in 6 twice. Gotten it in 5 11 times. Gotten it in 4 16 times. Gotten it in 3 20 times.
Okay.
And gotten it 2 1 time. And I'd never do a 1 because I am not a little cheater.
I'm not. Hey, to be fair, this was the day before, so it wasn't cheating. I just listened to internet trolls who were having a discussion about Wordle on a TikTok video that had nothing to do with Wordle.
But, like, they knew.
I don't know how they know, though.
I don't know how they know, but they knew.
And
somehow they knew.
To be fair,
hackers.
There were, like 3 words being thrown around, so that's why I count it.
So you went with one of the 3 words. Okay, you had a 33% chance.
But yeah, on my phone, I've played 79 times.
Okay, I've played 52 times.
What's your starting word?
Tires.
Tires. Interesting.
Yeah, because you get like 2 vowels. You get R, T, and S. I've thought about changing it up some. My aunt says one of her first words is ado. So you have like A-D-I-E-U.
So the reason my like 6 tries is so long is because before I was like trying to do it in I was just trying to get a long streak. I wasn't trying to do it in as few tries as possible.
Yeah.
So I had 3 words that I would start with all the time.
What were your 3 words?
I would start with story.
Okay.
Maple. and adieu.
Those are good.
Yeah.
Maple. I feel like
because it's the M and the P that really, and the L, the M, P, and L.
The L, yeah, I get. All right, I need to like work N and D, I think, into one of the earlier words, because I was doing, when I do Quirtle, I kind of have 2 opening words because you just have so many freaking options. You got to get them out of the way quickly.
Yeah.
So it's like tires, and then I'll go with cloak.
Okay.
But really, the K, I mean, yeah, sometimes K is in there, but it's much less common. I wish clone was spelled C-L-O-A-N. That would make my life easier.
What about clove? No, but that's too many letters.
Too many letters.
Yeah. Well,
I'm still working on it.
I think curry starts with realm.
That's good.
Yeah.
That's good.
I've seen online that you should try with thurl first.
I'm sorry, what?
Thurl?
That's not a word.
It's technically a word.
Okay, T-H-I-R-L?
No, T-H-U-R-L.
Why would you start with a U?
Because that also rules out Q if there's no U.
Okay, but that's not very common.
Apparently, this lady, she was on TikTok again, and she the
height of...
No, she showed her work, okay? She had, 5 pieces of paper.
If you have 5 pieces of paper...
She literally wrote out the most common double consonant sounds. Okay. And then she threw... I don't understand her logic, but I trust her as a human being.
Okay.
Yes, this was my first time ever seeing that she exists, but I trust her with my whole heart.
Wow. Do you trust me?
Maybe.
Okay.
I don't know. It depends. Are you trying to tell me not to start with thurl?
A little bit.
Then I don't trust you, Robin.
All right.
Well, Robin, do you have a something for us?
I do. So as I promised last episode, this is something spooky, and I feel like I'm really not cheating.
I feel like you're cheating.
I feel like I'm cheating, but I'm not. So here's the thing.
Uh-huh.
And this is something I feel very much in my heart.
Okay.
I'm so jealous of New England. And you want to know why I'm jealous of New England?
Because they have so many cryptids?
They have so many hauntings.
Oh.
They have so many, long, drawn-out hauntings. And they're famous.
Yeah.
And I'm like, and so I want to do these. But we're in the South. So, okay, I figure, listen.
So what you're saying is we need to have a sister podcast.
Girl, I can't even handle. But what I am saying is that I can do one of those for something spooky and just kind of do a little bit of an overview of it to maybe whet their appetite for a Patreon episode of this eventually. So we're talking about the Amityville Horror for a hot minute.
Oh my gosh.
Do you have thoughts?
I don't, because I don't remember, but I do know it's hot.
What?
It's hot as in Hot Topic.
It is a hot topic. Yeah, it's a hot topic.
Not as in it's getting steamy in
It's
here.
really not.
Yeah.
Yeah, so...
I think a child kills their parent, right?
Not a child. A 23-year-old.
Mm-hmm.
One of the things that is also true, I think, of these, not specifically New England, because, obviously all hauntings could very well easily be hoaxes.
Yeah.
But I'm just here with the real tea. But I think the Amityville Horror specifically is under fire for that.
Gotcha.
And I'm... What?
Sorry, this is one of the Warrens, right?
The Warrens were, I thought they were really involved, but when I did a little bit of overview research, it looked like they were minorly involved.
Okay.
Obviously, when I go into it more for a Patreon episode, I'd be able to give you a more definitive answer.
Gotcha.
But, so basically, the reason I think, I go into this, I associate it with the Warrens just because I know that they were involved from this because it was involved in one of the Conjuring movies, barely, but there. I believe that the Warrens are kind of full of crap?
Yeah, no.
Okay, great.
I think they probably started genuine, but as they picked up fame, I think they kind of grew a little heavy-headed.
I can see that. I have no idea what their career trajectory looked like, so actually it'd be really good to do just an episode on
the Warrens.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, that's probably an entire podcast dedicated to the Warrens.
But, okay, I wanted to do Amityville Horror because I do think this was one of the ones that I looked up and there was a lot to be said about it. I can't quite remember, but okay, just so you know that there's controversy.
Okay.
Okay, it's at like 112 Ocean Avenue, which is in Amityville, New York, which is like on Long Island or off Long Island, something like that.
Okay.
And it's like it really is a two-parter. Like, there was a family called the DeFeos who lived there. And one night, Ronald DeFeo Jr., who was 23 years old, this was November 13th, 1974. He took a rifle and at 3:15 a.m. Shot 4 of his siblings who were all younger than him and his 2 parents. They all died. And he did, I don't think he like immediately confessed. He was eventually arrested for it, and he tried to do the insanity plea. And so he said, well, there were voices telling me to shoot them all. That was his effort to get an insanity plea. And the court ended up rejecting it. Now, I can't tell you what was going on in his head or not, but a lot of the people who heard that were like, oh, that's paranormal. Voices were telling you to kill your family. There were evil spirits in the house. No. Yeah. I'm sorry. My whole thing, like, and again, I don't know what was going through his head. I don't know if this was just a last-ditch effort to not go to prison. By the way, he went to prison. But it could just very, very seriously be, like, a mental health issue where you're having these auditory hallucinations. I don't... Like, this is a whole thing of people skipping straight to paranormal that maybe don't need to. I don't know if... Everybody knew, like, this house was where these murders took place, okay?
Right.
I don't know if the paranormal happenings of it were, I don't want to say known. I don't know if people in the area thought that paranormal things were happening in the house in these few years after the DeFeo murders, or if it was after this next family, the Lutzes, moved in and started talking about the paranormal things happening. And I feel like that would be a very key difference. But the Lutzes moved in December 1975. So this is like 1 year later.
Okay.
They only lived there for 28 days.
Okay.
So George is the husband. There was George, and then there was Kathy, and I think they had 3 kids living with them there. George said he would wake up every night at 3:15 a.m., which is when...
Yeah, he shot them.
Yeah, which is when he shot them. They said, like, they could see eyes looking in from outside the window.
Ooh.
Creepy. Very creepy.
Uh-huh.
George said he saw his wife, Kathy, levitate, like, from her bed, but he said that something was holding him down so he couldn't move, like, something he couldn't see. So I look at that and I think immediately sleep paralysis.
Okay.
George also said that they were concerned about moving into the house before they moved into it. The reason they bought it is because it was a big house, great placement. I think it even was like on the water, had a boathouse and everything.
But it was cheap.
It was only $80,000.
Yeah.
So that's why they moved in, and they thought they were getting a great deal, and they had money issues, by the way.
Yeah.
They asked a priest to bless the house before they moved in, like to kind of cleanse it of the dark past, and they said that the priest felt a slap on his face.
Oh.
And that something said the words "get out" to him.
Oh, okay.
And they moved in after that. Anyway. Which,
well, I mean, they already purchased the house. It's really hard to go back on that.
Well, I mean, they did 28 days later.
Yeah, true.
I'm just saying. I'm sorry. If something slapped a priest and told him to get out, I think I would just sleep in my car outside. I don't know. I wouldn't go in. After they left, so the 28 days are up, researchers came in to check it out, and this includes Lorraine Warren, who I mostly watch the Conjuring movies, and can I just say, I love their characters.
Okay.
The characters in the Conjuring movies, I'm all about, because in the Conjuring movies, they are this foundational love story that is just trying to save the day and be good people and survive and take care of their daughter. And I admire that. In real life, I just don't quite. I don't quite.
Yeah.
So Lorraine is the one who is supposedly able to communicate because she's a medium. Mm-hmm. She is one of the people that goes into the house. And I don't know all of her involvement in this, but she's still, at least, in those retrospective interviews they have with her looking back at it, she's like, oh, it was a very creepy house, very bad feelings, all that kind of stuff. But again, I think she's kind of not reputable. One of the kids said that the hauntings did happen, but that the father exaggerated it.
Okay.
And okay, so what ended up happening is that they sold their story to the guy named Jay Anson, who wrote the book Amityville Horror, which had a sequel, and then had a movie that had a remake that starred Ryan Reynolds. Like, it's It's a big deal. Like, that's why I said I'm doing the Amityville Horror, not just, like, the Amityville House. It's, like, it's known by the title of the book.
Yeah.
So the lawyer said that George Lutz was kind of, like, in a financial bind. He wanted to get out of debt. He said that they were meeting with Jay Anson to talk about, like, I guess terms of selling the story and everything. And the lawyer said, well, everybody started drinking, and then it turned into, like, basically us brainstorming what would make for a best-selling book.
Oh, wow.
Which is not the same thing.
Yeah.
So it's, like, that whole, I guess, based on a true story element, except where it is very much blurred with you saying, no, this is exactly what happened.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's what I have on the Amityville Horror, but I kind of just wanted to share that with you as, like, one of these several things in New England that I want to cover. Like, because I want to look into this because, like, is any of it true? Is it not? I mean, obviously we can't know for sure, but, like, where are we getting the source material from?
Mm-hmm.
It's weird that, like, this haunting, like, obviously the house is known for the murders, but it's, like, known for the haunting, I think, over that.
Right.
Because it's, like, brought up this tragedy with this almost, like, interpretation of the tragedy.
Right. Yeah.
Just wanted to share that with you.
Well, thank you.
Yeah. Thanks for listening. Do you have a story for us today?
I do have a story for us today. We're going to talk about the unsolved disappearance of Mary Virginia Carpenter.
Okay.
She's known as Virginia Carpenter, also known as Jimmy. That was her nickname, but most of the newspapers at the time were calling her Virginia, or actually Miss Carpenter, but So she was born on January 15th, 1927 in Texarkana, which is in between Texas and Arkansas.
Oh, thank you. I had no idea.
We briefly discussed it in the Folk Monster.
Oh, okay. I had an idea.
She was a healthy and good child, but her mother said that she, quote, inherited a bad streak from me of wanting to walk a little too far from home. And so her mother, Hazel, would scare her by telling her big dogs roam the streets.
It's very, like, fairy tale-esque.
Yes, and it kind of makes you sad once you hear the rest of the story is of one of the theories, and it's just like, oh, she just wanted to roam, but a big dog found her.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So, on June 1st, 1978, Virginia was 21 years old. She went missing from the campus of Texas State College for Women, now known as the Texas Women's University, and she was never seen again.
Mm-hmm.
So let's go back to the beginning. When Virginia was 3 years old, and there's going to be a lot of backstory here, but it's all kind of important.
Okay.
So I omitted the things that I was able to find that didn't actually apply to her story later, but it's going to sound like I'm rambling on about sunburns, and you're like, why do I care that she had a sunburn,
I got you.
Yeah. So when she was 3 years old, she rolled down the back steps of her house and she hit a tree. X-rays showed that she didn't have any broken bones or anything like that, but 3 months later she got so sick to the point that she was in bed the whole time, and when she tried to walk she couldn't. It was physically painful to her. And they called it an influenza, but it wasn't like the flu as we know it. It was just what they called illnesses that they didn't know the cause of back then.
Yeah.
So her parents tried to find the cause of her illness, but nobody could really figure it out. Her parents thought it was from that tumble, like maybe she hurt herself somehow, but she was able to get a little bit better, but then she rapidly got worse and became in what the newspapers in those days called crippled.
Mm-hmm.
So they went to orthopedic surgeons until they found one in Tennessee who was able to find an infection in her right hip that had tiny pinholes in the bones.
Really?
Yeah. So basically her bone was basically rotting at this point.
Oh.
Yeah. So they gave her some medicine. They put a brace on her leg that puts it in the proper position. And later they talked about, like, her bone was shortened. So I don't know, but it didn't say it here. So I'm assuming they did some sort of surgery to, like,
Maybe get off
the part that was infected. She was told to lose weight and to sunbathe for 2 hours a day for 2 years.
Great to tell a person who can, like, is having trouble moving around, like...
Lose weight?
Yeah, I'm just saying, like, that would be kind of... Hopefully, like, it doesn't mean, like... If she can't do much moving around, hopefully it doesn't mean, like, starving herself.
Well, she's also, like, 5 or 6 at this point.
Oh.
And you're not supposed to lose weight when you're 5 or 6. You're supposed to grow when you're 5 or 6, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah. Unfortunately, like, when she went to school, she got, like, mocked for her brace. Mm-hmm. And so she ended up, like, losing even more weight from self-conscious issues. But she was able to take her brace off after a year, at which point she went back to school because she stopped going when she was being mocked. Mm-hmm. But it wasn't until she was 12 years old that she was declared completely cured of her ailment. However, she was easily tired for the rest of her life. She couldn't do a lot of physical activity, and she walked with a limp.
Okay.
So her father grew ill when she got to high school, and he actually passed 2 years later when she was 15. She was described as, quote, not bright in school, but she had an unusual amount of common sense and loyalty. She was quiet and rarely participated in activities. However, she was in the band as a majorette, aka a baton twirler.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
I think baton twirlers now have, like, flips and gymnastics and all that they do.
It's the whole thing.
Yeah, but I think back in those days, she literally would, like, walk through the baton a few times and then walk off the stage, you know?
That's fun.
So she graduated from Arkansas High School in 1944. She went to the University of Arkansas to study journalism, but she came home after a year. She didn't really like being a journalist, and she actually wanted to become a laboratory technician because of her father's illness. So she was like, well, they weren't able to cure him. I want to become a laboratory tech. That way I can, you know, help find the cause of his illness and maybe the cure. Mm-hmm. But because she wasn't bright in school, she didn't take science, and science was required to become a laboratory technician. So she was kind of at a loss of what to do.
Okay.
So she attended the Texas State College for Women from September 1945 until February 1946. I think she was just doing, like, gen ed courses. Mm-hmm. But then she had to leave school again because her mother became ill. Mm-hmm. So her mother was at home alone, so she had to go home and take care of Hazel, but she was determined to go back to school within a year. Both her and her mother had to have surgery within a week of each other. Her mother's was related to her illness, and her surgery was because she suddenly had appendicitis and had to get her appendix removed. Yeah. So she did end up having a scar from the appendicitis or appendix removal surgery or whatever it's called, and that was later used to be like, hey, she doesn't have an appendix, she has a scar if you see her. But they both ended up staying in the hospital for about a month before they were taken home by a man named Mac, who was a student at Texas A&M, and I'm assuming he's like a student doctor or something like that, who took them home to nurse them for a little bit.
Yeah.
So Virginia and Mac fell in love.
Aww.
Yes. They got engaged and had a date for their wedding and started planning it, but her grandparents didn't approve of their relationship.
Why? He was going to be a doctor.
Yeah, I don't know why they didn't approve, but they didn't. And it got into Virginia's head, so she actually called off the wedding 3 weeks before it was supposed to happen.
Okay.
Her mother said, I loved Mac because of his fine qualities and because he was so good to me, but I couldn't see their two personalities living together in harmony. So I guess the people around her just thought she was, or I guess they were not compatible.
According to the people around them.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. So at this point, Virginia wanted to return to school, but she had to get a job to pay for it. She worked at an insurance firm to get money until August 1947, and then she attended the Texarkana Junior College, which is a community college, so she can get that science credit that she needed. Mm-hmm. And then she had her plan to go back to the Texas State College for Women, finish up the gen ed program. She would do that in the summer, and then that would allow her to enter technician training in the fall of 1948. So she finally had her life arranged, you know, like, okay, I'm gonna do this and then this and then this. And she started dating a new person. His name was Kenny Branham. He was from Dallas, though, so it was a little bit of a long distance kind of situation. But 10 days before she, quote unquote, graduated, I guess, from the junior college, the school had a annual picnic near a lake. And so she went with her boyfriend Kenny and another couple. And then when she got back home at 5 p.m., her mother said she was the most sunburnt person I have ever seen. She was apparently red as a lobster. And she passed out several times between coming home.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
She had sun poisoning.
She had sunstroke, and a 2nd-degree sunburn. And as somebody who has had a sunburn so bad that my legs turned purple, that's not fun.
Oh, my God.
Yeah. I did pass out at work. It was not great. It, like, affects your head, too. It, like...
No, yeah.
It makes you feel like you're swimming and your words don't go together.
Sunburns are no joke.
They really aren't.
This is a PSA to apply sunscreen.
Especially as we enter the summer.
Yes. Protect that skin.
So she passed out and came to several more times before a doctor was able to do a house call to come see her. And he prescribed her with rest and quiet for a few days.
Thanks, Doc.
Yeah, I know. On the 3rd day, even though she still was very ill, she attended her final exams at the college, and she apparently told her teachers about her previous engagement and said that she had fallen in love again, but the boy did not love her.
So this would be Kenny.
They presumed it was about Kenny, but they don't know.
Okay.
She never named any names, and again, she was still a little loopy from the sunstroke.
Yeah.
So Virginia was still recovering from that sunburn when she left for the Texas State College for Women, or TSCW. Her mother begged to drive Virginia to school since she was still sick, but Virginia insisted that she would take the train. Virginia was very much a woman who did not like... She was... I can't tell if it was a desire not to put people out, like not to get in the way of others, or if it was headstrong, like, I'm gonna do what I want to do kind of situation. So I don't know if she wanted to take the train because she wanted to take the train, or if it was like, no, mother, you don't have to drive me, I'll just take the train.
I got you.
Yeah. So on June 1st, 1948, Hazel took Virginia to the train station and caught the train moments before it left. Hazel, her mother, said, I was so in hopes we would find the train gone so that I could drive her down the next morning. There was a tinge of disappointment when I saw the train had not left, but she refused to get on until she kissed me goodbye. And as she stood in the rear platform of the train waving goodbye, I wondered if there was anyone more radiant and beautiful. In my heart, I offered a silent prayer because she was mine. Aww. And that was the last time her mother ever saw her.
I have chills.
The train left at 3 p.m. from the Texarkana Union Station and arrived in Denton around 9 p.m., and that's where the college is. While on the train, Virginia met a woman named Marjorie Webster. She was a middle-aged school teacher who was also enrolling at Texarkana, and they became fast friends. When they arrived in Denton, they hired a cab to take them to the college dorms. The driver's name was Edgar Ray Zachary. They arrived at the dorms, but then Virginia realized that she forgot to check on her trunk at the train station before they left. So she decided to go back, and Marjorie was like, hey, I will come with you because you can't be a woman traveling alone at night. But she's like, no, I'll be fine. You go in, and I'll see you tomorrow. So Virginia rode back to the station with Edgar to find that her trunk had not yet arrived at the station. So Edgar said, hey, sign the back of this claim check and I'll bring it to you in the morning. So basically, she would sign, giving him permission to pick up the trunk, and then he would bring it to her rooms the next day.
Okay.
And so she signed the back of it. She wrote Virginia Carpenter, room 200, Bracken Ridge, which was the name of the dorm, on the back, and then she tipped Edgar another $1, and Edgar then drove her back to the dorms. When they got there, around 9:30 p.m., there was a yellow or cream-colored convertible, possibly a Pontiac, parked in front. It was a dark night with a new moon and no streetlights, so he couldn't see much. Edgar says that Virginia got out of his taxi and walked up to the convertible where there were 2 young men standing by it. One was tall and one was short and stocky. She asked, "Well, what are y'all doing here?" to the men, but the driver couldn't hear the reply because he was going back to get her stuff.
Does he know anything about, did he say anything about the town?
She seemed surprised that they were there, but it did seem like she knew them.
Okay, so it's not like, what are y'all doing here?
It was like, well, what are y'all doing here?
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
So Virginia instructed him to place her luggage onto the ground, not the trunk, the other stuff she was carrying, saying that the boys would carry them in for her. And she said, do the same thing with her trunk in the morning. So she said, leave my trunk here tomorrow morning. Edgar agreed and then left. A night watchman nearby saw her get out of the cab and later get into the convertible and saw the convertible drive off. Mm-hmm. The next morning, Edgar dropped off the trunk and placed it exactly where Virginia told him to. The trunk sat there for 2 days before somebody took it to the front office. The dean, Mrs. Maddie Lloyd Wooten, later said that this was the first time someone did not deliver luggage to a room. On June 4th, so this is 3 days after after she was seen last, Kenny, her boyfriend, called Hazel, the mother, to tell her that he had not been able to get a hold of Virginia since she left home.
Okay.
Hazel called the school and found that Virginia never enrolled in classes or checked in at the dorm.
What do you mean never enrolled in classes?
So back, you know how now we can go online and we can enroll in classes?
Yeah.
But apparently when she checked into the dorm, she was supposed to also sign up for the summer courses.
Okay.
But she never did any of that paperwork. She never checked into the dorm. Like, they knew to expect her, obviously, because she got in. But it was kind of like their orientation day. She never did that.
Okay.
Yeah. So then Hazel called Virginia's friends and her relatives, asking if anyone had heard from Virginia, but nobody had heard anything. So just after midnight, Hazel called both the Texarkana and Denton police stations to report her daughter missing, but the Texarkana force told her, just go to bed and we'll get on the case in the morning.
Great.
Yeah. So they did do a lot of searching for her, but the searching that they did, and I'll get to it in a minute, but it really feels like they kind of just assumed she was already dead.
Really?
Yeah. But I'm skipping ahead of myself. Sorry, that's a little teaser for later.
Okay.
So the mother wasn't able to sleep, so she left for Denton at 2 a.m. with her live-in best friend, Lucille Bailey. Mm-hmm. Which I'm like, is that lesbians? Anyway, that's not part of the story, but is that lesbians? That night, her uncle and friends also went to Denton to help police with their search. Then there was an aerial search. Like, the very first thing they did was an aerial search, boats on local ponds and lakes, and people looking in the woods, tanks, water tanks, storm drains, creeks, side roads, and abandoned wells. So, that was their first step.
Yeah.
Is to, kind of look for a dead body.
Yeah. And
then their next step was to send out a notice to all police statewide to check out drivers of light-colored convertibles. Mm-hmm. But that came up with nothing. A Texas Ranger named Lewis Rigler entered the investigation after being requested to do so by Virginia's uncle. He also brought in the chief of police, Jack Shepard, and Sheriff Toy Moore. That might be Troy Moore. That's probably Troy Moore.
Assume.
So officers talked to witnesses and got all the information that they could. Edgar's testimony, the watchman, all the people who are on the train with her. They got whatever information they could. They asked hunters and farmers to keep an eye out for freshly dug dirt or unusual odors. Mm-hmm. Pictures and descriptions of Virginia were sent out to the Department of Public Safety, major city police departments, protection officers of railroad companies, state investigative agencies, and other offices like that. So they were passing out her photo and her description.
Yeah.
And the description read, Virginia Carpenter was 5 feet 3 inches tall, weighed 120 pounds, and had dark brown hair and brown eyes. She was last seen wearing a light white chambray dress with brown and green stripes, some descriptions included red stripes, and silver buttons down the front, a small white straw hat with the brim flipped up and a white feather stuck in the back, red leather platform high-heeled shoes, a gold Whitnar watch. It's a name.
Okay.
Whitnar watch. Carpenter took with her a red purse, a black pasteboard hat box, a brown steamer trunk, and a matching cosmetics case. According to Mrs. Carpenter, her daughter left with no more than $15 or $20. Mm-hmm. So the red purse is kind of important. Just remember that.
Okay.
Her trunk was opened by the police, but it offered no clues. Mm-hmm. And her purse nor any of her other bags were ever found.
Okay.
A gas station attendant in Aubrey, Texas, about 10 miles away, said he saw a girl the day after she went missing, so the 2nd, who resembled Virginia. A yellow convertible with Arkansas license plates with 2 boys and 2 girls stopped at his gas station. He reported this on June 6th after seeing her in the newspaper. They went to investigate, but by that point it was like kind of too late to do anything.
Yeah.
So a reward fund for leading to the arrest and conviction of the person or people responsible for her disappearance was started on June 9th, and it reached $1,368 by June 11th. In today's money, that's over $15,000.
Okay.
On June 11th, around 9 p.m., a ticket agent worked at a bus station in DeQueen, Arkansas, and she said that she saw a girl that looked like Virginia.
And so this is how long after she went missing?
She went missing on the 1st, and this is the 11th.
Okay.
Yeah. So she got off a bus from Texarkana wearing a red dress and carrying a red purse. She waited in the lobby for about 10 minutes, and then a man walked up to her, and she left with him. He was about 25 or 26, over 135 pounds, and had light brown hair and was wearing a white shirt and khaki pants. Mrs. James, the ticket attendant, said that the girl looked nervous and was biting her lips often and kept walking over to the door. I don't know if it was like she's gonna leave on her own or if she was looking at the door to like see if anybody was coming.
Okay.
But she had gone up to the ticket agent and asked about local hotels. And after she left, a woman called asking if Miss Virginia Carpenter was there.
Okay.
Yeah. Mrs. James learned about Virginia's missing case the next day and reported her sighting to the police. The police showed her 2 photos of similar women. One of them was Virginia, and the other was a random woman. And Mrs. James pointed out Virginia as the woman that she had seen. Police checked nearby hotels and tourist camps, but could not find her. Later, Mrs. James began to doubt that whether or not she had actually seen Virginia.
I get that.
Yeah. Then on June 12th, a woman matching Virginia's description was, so this was the next day, was reported riding in a car with 2 boys or young men in Mena, Arkansas, which is about 47 miles from DeQueen, but they didn't investigate.
Why didn't they investigate?
They didn't think that the tip was reliable.
Okay.
Her face and case were put into a magazine called Reward, an official publication that investigates missing people with rewards. But the magazine only generated a few replies, all of which were, quote, not helpful. So...
yeah, and if you're, like, reading that magazine, like, I don't know, it seems
apparently it went out mostly to, like, police agencies and stuff like that.
Oh, okay. I thought it was just, like, randos who are looking for...
like, true crime obsessed?
No, more like just there for the reward.
Gotcha,
because it is
bounty
called
hunters.
Reward.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, so they weren't able to find anything. Though apparently, like, 160,000 police officers were subscribed to the newspaper or something, or magazine. Mm-hmm. Something like that. I didn't write the statistic down. I probably should have.
It's okay, Zoe.
I'm sorry I failed you.
It's okay. I forgive you.
And thank you. So on July 8th, So this is a whole month later now. A tourist from Michigan saw a woman that fit Virginia's description in Tucson, Arizona, but they were like, I doubt that you've seen her. Okay. So they didn't investigate that one either. Kenny, her boyfriend, passed a polygraph test and was ruled out as a suspect.
Okay, so we don't think he was one of the two guys in the car.
The police, if he was one of the two guys in the car, then all these other sightings that she was seen in, it couldn't have been him as a part of it, because he was there after. Oh, yeah. After the third, so he could have been one of the two guys in the car, but he, like, immediately killed her, you know? But if any of these things that happened after the third were true and actually Virginia, then it wasn't him. Okay. But polygraph tests are unreliable. Yeah. So I don't know why they were like, oh, he passed a polygraph test.
Well, I think that they were considered more reliable at that point.
Oh, really?
I mean, I don't think that they were always, like, considered unreliable.
Okay.
I think as we observed more and more, I don't know. I don't know. I don't know why I'm saying things. I don't know.
Well, that's okay. We all say things sometimes.
Okay. Good.
So they ruled out Kenny as a suspect, which I don't think is necessarily fair, but whatever. Mm-hmm. So the police turned their attention to Edgar, the taxi driver.
Yeah, poor guy. So I mean, well, I say poor guy.
Yeah. You're not going to say poor guy.
Oh, shoot.
So if it wasn't for the watchman who had said he saw her get out of the taxi and get into the convertible, 100% I would think it was Edgar. Okay. So Edgar had a record for petty crimes and a reputation for being abusive. However, his wife stated that he was home from 10 p.m. onwards that night, and the cab company also reported that he had called in after he dropped Virginia off to say he was done making pickups. Mm-hmm. So he also passed, I saw some websites say 2, some said 7, so he passed multiple polygraph tests. Okay. So he was ruled out as a suspect. Okay. Yeah. When I get to the theories section, I'm going to go a little bit deeper into that.
Gotcha.
But for the investigative section, that's all that they were. They were like, he's fine. He didn't do it. Okay. On July 12th, rumors started saying that she had come home, but it wasn't true. And people were like, how did this rumor start? Yeah. But it happened multiple times after that. Like, people started rumors saying either she was found or her body was found. And nobody else online were, like, saying anything about that. But to me, it sounds like somebody who's kind of close to the case was involved and was purposely spreading these rumors to make people less interested in it, you know?
You think?
That was what I pulled tiny details to hypothesize. Uh-huh. But, like, to me, that's what it sounds like to me.
I got you.
But because it does happen multiple times. I'm like, who would start those rumors?
Yeah.
Somebody who's suspicious AF.
Okay.
So the police did discover that she knew some boys with cream-colored convertibles, but they were unable to implicate any of them. And that's the most frustrating thing about this case to me, is it really seemed like they just walked up and said, did you kill or kidnap her? And they said, no, officer, it wasn't me. And they're like, oh, darn, we thought we had them this time. Like, I mean, I'm not saying that is what happened, but that seems like what happened.
Yeah.
And I'm like, she knew people with a cream-colored convertible.
That's a specific car.
Yes. And it's like, you should be a little bit more suspicious of that. Just saying.
Just saying.
Yeah. So many leads and tips came through, but none of them were confirmed. Again, rumors would pop up saying that she had come home, her luggage was found, they found her body, but none of them were ever true.
Yeah.
To the point where the police were like, hey, we'll tell you if she comes home, kind of thing. Like, we're going to make a big hubbub about it if she comes home.
Like, you will not hear it from your neighbor, and only your neighbor.
You'll hear it on the radio, you'll hear it in the news. Like, come on.
Yeah.
So,
which I think is a common sense thing, you know?
Yeah, yeah.
But then again, now we're so used to just getting news from, like, official official sources.
Yeah. Granted, like, if you came in and you're like, oh my god, you know that major case that we've been hearing about? They finally found the killer. I'd be like, oh my gosh, tell me more.
That is true.
I wouldn't necessarily hop to Google and be like, are you telling the truth, Robin?
I'm just suspicious.
You're so suspicious.
Okay.
So, on January...
You're just gonna continue the voice?
Yes. One day we're gonna do an entire episode where I'm just talking like this, and people are immediately gonna shut it off, and it's gonna be our worst downloads ever.
So they looked in the mirror, and then they saw
the ghost.
The ghost. We apologize.
I don't. So, on January 14th, so we're skipping ahead a little bit. Mm-hmm. January 14th, 1949. The Houston Press received a letter from a woman named Gladys Bass in Chirano, Texas.
Can you spell that out for me, please?
Chirano.
Can you spell that out for me, please?
Chireno.
Yeah, I don't know.
Chirano.
I don't know.
So, she claimed to have met a girl who was well-dressed and well-educated, but who had been hitchhiking. Gladys was out with her friends at a diner when the woman came up to her and said that she was hungry and had no money. So this lady and her friends bought her some food, and she sat down at the table with them and ate. She called herself Virginia. She talked properly, had long brown curly hair that touched her shoulders. She wore a white hat with a feather in it, a striped dress, and a blue sweater. So she went missing wearing a striped dress and a white hat with a feather in it.
I forgot about the striped hat. Striped sweater.
Dress.
Striped dress.
Yes, the blue sweater's new, but she did have her not big trunk with her. So she had some clothes with her.
Yeah.
Yeah. And also she could have bought a sweater.
Time had passed.
Yeah. So Gladys offered her the food and... Sorry, I already said that. So Gladys originally thought she was telling a story, but saw later on the news a picture of Virginia and her name and all of that, and was like, oh my word, that is the lady I met down at the cafe. So she wrote the letter to the police officers, but the police were, quote, unable to substantiate her report. It's like, this is literally a woman that showed up looking like her, wearing the same clothes that she wore when she last was seen, calling herself Virginia.
I mean, what are you supposed to do in order to substantiate a report?
Find her? I don't know. And it's not like there were security cameras at this point.
Security cameras would make this whole thing so much easier.
It really would.
We'd be like, they went that way. It was these guys.
Exactly.
They were seen here, here, and here.
Yeah. But no security cameras, just word of mouth and police officers who, didn't believe anyone, apparently. Which, I mean, I understand because people do false reports all the time.
People do false reports, and, honestly, sometimes you see people who aren't... I don't know where I was going with that. Okay. Sometimes maybe you can have, full interactions with somebody and, get it wrong who they are.
Yeah.
It could just be a whole bunch of people... Because, I mean, okay, well-dressed brunette.
Yeah.
It's kind of what you're looking for.
Yeah. But she walks with a limp, and she was sunburned at the point of her disappearance.
Forgot about the sunburn.
Yes, she was still ill and had a sunburn at the time of her disappearance. Mm-hmm. So, but anyway, from there, nothing much happened, unfortunately. The reward money was given back in 1950 after it reached $3,000, which was a little over $33,000 in today's money. On June 6th, 1955, 7 years after her disappearance, she was legally declared dead in accordance to the Texas civil statute. On October 18th, 1959, a 3-by-1 foot box was found containing female bones, including a skull and some leg bones and stuff like that. The box had been found in a smokehouse about 7 miles from Jefferson, Texas. The bones matched Virginia's height and weight and were sent to Austin for examination. But the biggest thing that caused people to hope it was her was that the bone had the same deformity in the right leg that Virginia had from her youth. And the skull was the shape of a person who was white. So you know how you can find racial markers in skulls?
No, but okay.
Clearly you don't watch enough Bones.
I'm sorry.
But apparently, like, your nose bridge and the way your jaw falls, it can determine your race, apparently. Okay. So, this was a white woman who was around the same height and weight as Virginia and had the same leg deformity. However, the dental work did not match.
Okay, well, that's the definitive thing.
Yeah.
So it was someone.
It's a major coincidence.
Yeah.
It was someone. However,
it just wasn't her.
Once they found out that it wasn't her, they went to the person who found the bones and was like, so you're saying you just found these bones in a box next to this little smokehouse? And after investigating, the person who found the bones admitted that he was the previous owner of the land. He said that he had told them he found the boxes there, but in reality, he had gone to a black cemetery, dug up the bones, and put them in the box himself.
Okay.
Yeah. Which is like 5 levels of wrong.
It is. Oh my... Okay. See, this is like why I get that they're dismissing some things.
Yeah.
Just because some people just do things. Mm-hmm. And it doesn't make sense.
No. It's like, what was your goal here? They had already returned the reward money.
Yeah.
So I don't know what the goal was.
Okay.
So Virginia's mother passed away in 1980. She had been very active in pursuing leads. However, she had given up hope. She believed that her daughter was dead, but still wanted to find her body. However, 3 cousins of Virginia still continue to search for her to this day.
Really? Okay. Mm-hmm.
Obviously, they assume that she's dead, because even if she was able to live a full life after, she would be very old by now.
She'd be in her 90s, yeah. So now it's just kind of like about finding out what happened and giving her a resting place and everything.
Yeah, she was born in 1927. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So one last, I guess, trail came up in May of 1998, which was 50 years later. A man in his 70s claimed he knew who killed her and where she was. And so he told the police that he knew the 2 men who had sexually assaulted her and killed her and then buried her on the campus of TSCW.
Okay.
However, they excavated the land and they were only able to find a leather glove, a rubber boot, and animal bone fragments. Since the men he had named were dead by this point and they weren't able to find any evidence, they kept the name of the men secret. Which makes sense.
I get that.
Yeah. That's the end of the facts section. Here are the theories. Before the specific ones, the general ones are just wrong place, wrong time, she got murdered.
Okay.
She went out with the boys. Maybe she said she'd find her way back. They were friends visiting or whatever, and she just got killed.
Okay.
Another one is maybe she just ran away. Maybe she had a panic attack at the last minute and just ran away and never to come back.
She did tell her mom she didn't want her mom to drive her.
Yeah.
She did go back. I mean, I could see if she wanted to run away, that would be how to do it. But if she's surprised that the guys were there, a lot of those things don't quite add up to running away.
Right. Some people say she was kidnapped. Same thing with the murder thing. Wrong place, wrong time, got kidnapped.
By the guys?
Maybe just she went, like, they could have been high school friends and they didn't say anything because they didn't want to be, like, accused of anything.
Yeah.
And it kind of became like, well, I didn't say anything 10 years ago, can't say anything now situation. Mm. Or maybe she was trafficked.
Yeah.
That was another thing. But, so those are some of the, like, general, this just happens to people sometimes, unfortunately. Mm-hmm. But the more specific ones, from what I think are least likely to most likely. So, some of Virginia's former boyfriends claimed that she became infatuated easily and believed that she had ran away with a lover. Her family did not believe she would leave without telling them. However, this would explain some of the sightings and why she was seemingly willingly able to get into the convertible and leave with those 2 boys, men, whatever. However, if the woman who said she was in Virginia, the Gladys lady who fed her, if she, sorry, not in Virginia, her name's Virginia, and I was getting my lines mixed up, but if the woman, Gladys, had actually seen Virginia, this wouldn't explain why she didn't just come home when she found herself alone. Like, if she ran away to be with a lover, and then in January she was talking to Gladys saying she ran away, well, obviously she was alone at this point, so why didn't she just go back home? Unless, of course, it's like a situation where it's like, I'm too afraid to go back home because I've broken my mother's heart at this point. Yeah. I just, her family just were so adamant that she wouldn't leave without telling somebody. I mean, her mom was basically her whole entire life at this point.
Yeah.
So, and she was finally on the path to be the profession she wanted. She wouldn't have just thrown it away on a whim. She was a very practical and loyal girl, like I said, so she wouldn't just break everyone's hearts like that. And she didn't owe anyone money. She didn't have a criminal past. There wasn't a jealous ex after her. So police were like, no, she didn't just run away.
Okay.
Another one is in the winter and spring of 1946, so 2 years before she disappeared, 5 young people were murdered in Lovers Lanes in Texarkana, and they were all believed to be the work of the same person who was known as the Texarkana Phantom Killer or the Moonlight Murders. 3 of the people killed were people Virginia knew.
Really?
Yes.
So it was like in that area?
Yeah, in that area, attacking people that were like classmates of Virginia. However, the killing stopped 2 years prior. Most people believe that there was one individual who was the killer, but he was arrested on another crime, like on another charge, I guess, and was in prison at the point where Virginia was disappeared.
Okay.
Yeah. And Virginia's disappearance didn't match the MO of the Phantom Killer, and so they were just like...
And there were no other missing... Well, that would be a question, wouldn't it? Were there other missing people? Right. And that would explain, like, a runaway situation, too, if there were other missing people.
I didn't see anything about that, and I feel like that would have come up.
And she was going to a new college, right?
Kind of. She had attended it a year before.
I just find it hard that no one would be like, here, oh, yeah, these guys knew her. Well, and I mean, that did happen. I feel like if somebody, like, goes missing and they, like, went in this car with people they knew with a cream convertible and knew these guys, I feel like people around would be like, oh yeah, these would totally be the guys. Like, somebody would know. Somebody would say something. I mean, and it sounds like they did, but for whatever reason, they couldn't go with, like, or more into the guys in the cream convertible. Yeah. It's just confusing.
It's very confusing. But yeah, so it's probably not the Phantom Murderer. Honestly, the Phantom Killer could be a future episode for us, just letting you know.
Okay.
Because there's apparently a lot into that. I was going to go a little bit more in depth, and I was reading it, and I was like, nope, this is a full episode.
Gotcha.
That is really only brought up by Reddit theorists at this point. So not many people believe in that one.
Okay.
So the next one is running away for an abortion.
Okay.
So again, in this time, it was very not good to be pregnant out of wedlock. And some people think that she may have been pregnant, and that's why the sunburn maybe took a toll on her so much. But then again, like, sunstroke's bad.
Yeah.
So she had also complained about her love life to her teachers and didn't name names, and saying that she once again fell in love with a man, didn't love her back. So they're thinking that maybe she had said, hey, I'm pregnant, you need to marry me, and he said no.
Okay.
So she theoretically could have gone to get an abortion, riding with the 2 young men. They were helping her out potentially.
But she was still surprised to see them.
Some people explained it away as they could have had plans to meet another day, and they were there early.
Okay.
So they could have brought her to get the abortion, but she died in the process. And her friends, not wanting to give her secret away, could have disposed of her body in secret as to not, like, besmirch her name.
Okay.
But the things wrong with that is, like, you'd think you'd say something after a certain time has passed, you know? And maybe they did say something, but the person continued to keep their secret. But, I mean, there's a lot of psychology that goes into it that makes me both simultaneously understand it and not understand keeping it a secret if she passed away from the abortion.
Yeah, I feel like that one, I mean, it does explain things in a certain way, but at the same time, like, I think it is somewhat of a stretch just because, like, there's really, other than it would explain a couple things, it doesn't really quite have a lot of basis.
Yeah. And when she had the physical exam from the doctor when she was passing out, he did mark on her sheet that she was not pregnant, but it was like, okay, did he say, are you pregnant? And she said no, and so he marked not pregnant, or did he actually, like, give her a test, you know?
Yeah.
So that one is another theory. The one I think is most likely, unfortunately, is Edgar, the taxi driver.
You think? Okay, why?
So, while he did pass the polygraph tests and his wife confirmed his alibi, things cropped up after her disappearance that after the investigation pretty much had shut down at this point. In 1957, he was charged with attempted rape, but the charges were dropped after the victim asked authorities not to prosecute.
Okay.
Also, the next year, 10 years after her disappearance, in 1958, his now ex-wife told police that she had lied and her husband was not home until 2 or 3 in the morning.
I was thinking that the wife's alibi had to be taken with a grain of salt.
Yeah, so, but then again, going back on that has to be taken with a grain of salt because she is an ex-wife now. It's after the situation where he may have sexually assaulted someone. She could be feeling bitter about it, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
The other thing is that the watchman did see her get into the convertible.
And who is the watchman? What is a watchman?
Oh, he was a security guard for the campus. But that doesn't mean he didn't call in saying, I'm done doing pickups, follow the convertible, wait for her to get out.
Yeah.
And stalked her down. Like, just because she got into the convertible doesn't mean he left her alone after that, you know?
Yeah, and I was also thinking, like, he could have just made that call. Like,
yeah,
it would be a good cover to make that call.
Yeah. And just because he called out or saying I'm done doesn't mean he went home, you know?
Yeah. So you're thinking it's him.
Yeah, I'm thinking he followed her home or followed her wherever she was going. Maybe she went out with her friends that night.
Yeah.
And then she was about to go home and he saw her and was like, hey, you want to ride back to campus? She got back in his truck because, oh, that's the same kind taxi driver from earlier. And then he could have done whatever he wanted from there.
Good points.
Yeah. But Edgar died in 1984 and he was never charged, but he actually remains a suspect because the file is still open.
Okay.
Yeah. So that's what I think happened. However, her mother, Hazel, convinced herself that Virginia just fell and hit her head and got amnesia. And she wished to believe that her daughter had found herself, not knowing who she was, and found a new and happy life for herself where she lived out to be old, essentially. So Hazel was just like, I just hope she just forgot who she was and found a life for herself.
I thought you had said that she had accepted that she had died.
She did. I was like, I think it was like she initially was like, I'm convinced she's just amnesia. That has to be what it is. And then a few years later, as she grew older, she was just like, yeah, she's probably dead.
Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, the amnesia thing would explain, like, that Gladys situation.
Yeah, where she just walked away. Yeah.
Yeah.
But that's all the information I have for you. But, like I said, the file is still open. So if you have any information on the case, you can call the Denton County Sheriff's Office because they are still, quote-unquote, actively pursuing this case.
All right. Yep. Thank you for sharing with us.
You're welcome.
If you guys liked this episode, please rate, subscribe, review, tell a friendo, and subscribe to our Patreon at patreon.com/hauntedhospitality. We give you a new episode every month at a $3 tier.
Yes, it comes out on the 13th because we're spooky. If you want to see my sources for today's episode, you can head over to hauntedhospitality.wordpress.com. If you have your own spooky story you'd like to share, you can email us at hauntedhospitalitypodcast@gmail.com, or you can send us a DM.
Yes, because we are on the interwebs on Twitter at Haunted Host. We are also on Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok at Haunted Hospitality. We hope to see you there.
Stay spooky.